Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. I'm here with Mike Padgham, who is chairman of St. Cecilia's Care Group. How you doing, Mike?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Even though it's a blustery, wet, cold day, but I'm feeling
Yeah,
top of the world. Thank you.
brilliant. Love to hear that. That's a great start. Good positivity. So, in terms of giving us a little bit more background, Mike, as to who you are, what you do, how long you've been doing it for, please go ahead and do that.
Well, I've been around for quite some time. Most of it actually in business, working for myself. I did start off in the public sector. I first trained as an engineer, to believe it or not, and then I
Right.
went into the NHS and did a management training scheme where I looked at all types of departments in the NHS and held the post of a manager there before I set up St. Cecilia's Care Group, which is in 1989, believe it or not. The time
Mhm.
has flown, but it's a fair few years ago, really. And I'm still
Yeah.
here, thankfully, and still plan to continue with the business till I'm no longer with us, if you get my drift.
Yeah, certainly. So that's an amazing sort of length of time. One to be in business, especially as a lot of businesses don't last beyond the sort of 5, 10 year mark, the vast majority. And I imagine you've seen quite a lot of changes over those years. In terms of, I suppose, when you set out a business and what you do now, what makes you stand out in the sector for what you do?
Well, I don't know if I sort of stand out in the sector. I suppose I've
Yeah.
done my best all the way along, and I've tried to give a good quality of service. But I am someone who believes very passionately that social care um, has not been viewed as seriously as it ought to be by the governments of the day, because I've been through a fair few, or even the general public. And I
Sure.
have done and will continue to try and put the message over that social care is something that you should be concerned about in the future if we want to
Mhm.
enjoy a good quality of life. So that's kept me going. So yes, I've run my business, but I've tried to be a spokesperson. What has maybe, perhaps as you suggested at the beginning, stood out is I hadn't been frightened to stick my head above the parapet a little bit, occasionally getting shot down. And I do
Yeah.
think, generally speaking, that, perhaps the business has not quite grown as much as I've liked to have done in the past because I've actually, focused on the bigger picture. And that's
Mhm.
one lesson that we might come on to later about what have you learned as you've gone along.
Sure, definitely. So, in terms of giving awareness to some of those things that you've touched upon there, as to what the general public should be mindful of, as you know, as we have an aging population. Can you give us a bit more background as to that, just out of sort of pure, yeah, public interest, I
Well,
guess, for things that people may not think about that are going to be relevant to them?
yeah. Well, I've always have been and continue to be, and hopefully will continue to be glass half full person, really.
Sure.
But I think the challenge, of course, is that really what the service I provide is a sort of distress purchase because nobody really wants to think about when they're getting older, perhaps, and how they're going to be looked after. But the sheer fact is that I guess when the health service came into being in 1948, sadly, people didn't live much longer after retirement. They passed
Hmm.
away maybe soon after 65. So there was really no need for social care. Nowadays, thankfully, people are living longer. And sometimes people can be in retirement longer than they're actually in work. So the
Sure.
need for social care is important. But the one key fact is it is not free at the point of need, such as the NHS. It is means tested. And if you have the means to look after yourself, then you have to pay for that social care. So if you're talking maybe 10, 15, 20 years of care, that's a lot of money. And I would urge people really in the public is we're all encouraged, aren't we, to save for a pension when we start
Sure.
work? I think we need to be thinking about saving for social care when we start work too, so that later on, when if you do need it, then you've
Hmm.
got some funds to pay for it. So that's something that maybe younger people don't want to think about. But pensions are in people's mind, but social care
Yeah.
perhaps is secondary to that. We need to be thinking what we do with that in the future.
Definitely, and kind of keeping with the business theme on that, is there any areas where a business, so like in pension, where it's matched or it's increased even based on contributions? Is there any thoughts around how a business who employ
Well,
people could help with that?
I think this is where we need to look at to the government to help, because at the minute is the insurance industry has not put anything in place for social care, because in fact there's no limit on the costs you might have to spend. And the governments of each colour, that's I go through the list really. When I first started, it was a Conservative government, then went to Labour, then we had several years of Tony Blair, then we had the coalition, then we had the Conservatives, and then we've gone back to Labour again. Is that no government has actually done anything about capping the cost of social care. So the insurance industry hasn't put a cap on it. So at the minute it's never ending. If you've got the means, currently just over £23,000, then you have to pay for social care yourself. And if you've got a property, that's taken into account as well. So it's something that we need to be thinking about. What I would like is a big shape up of social care. So the government capped the cost of social care so the insurance industry could come in and then provide a product that we could buy or contribute to. But I guess at the minute is whatever you save is used up. There's no contribution from anybody at the minute. So it's just something to think about. But I would urge the public really to, when it comes to elections or when they meet their MPs or they meet their local councillors, to say to them that what is the policy on social care in the future? Don't you think something should be done about it? And I think that's the way we can make noise. But at the minute is, save, but there isn't anything actually that contributes towards that at the moment.
Sure. Thank you for that important kind of message and things to think about. At what point did that kind of we're mixing kind of business and then I suppose representing your sector, which many business owners and leaders do? Whereabouts in your journey did that kind of start to cross over? Has it always been there from the start, or is it something you found as you went
quite close to the start? As many people in business, when starting on business, get involved in various networking groups, don't they? And I think there's so many groups out there, and I got involved in several, including one which represented care providers. So I joined them, and then I was asked to join the board of those organisations. And then as time went on, I became the chair. Bit of a thankless job in a way, because you're friends of no one then. You're not friends with government, and you're not friends with your colleagues because you're not speaking out enough. So I've done that now, and I'm still, now I've moved on to the grand title of president of the Independent Care Group in all that time. Sure. And the message has been the same really, is that we need to be thinking about the fairness. And it's not until you get into it do you realise that social care is a contributor to the economy as a whole, because it now employs more people than the NHS across England, and it's worth over £60 billion to the economy. So it contributes a lot. And it's something that the government could take note of. And I think it does help the NHS too. And in this current framework, we've got the NHS under severe strain, many people in hospital that don't need to be in hospital, and social care providers got capacity to take those people from hospital, but there's no funding available, because at the minute is the NHS is national, social care is split down to the local authorities, over 150 local authorities, who themselves are on the strain for budgets. So nothing much can change. And what I've done in the past is seen that unfairness, seen that what I call economics of the madhouse. It's cost the taxpayer more for people to be in hospital. And actually, we could save money in the public purse if we use the independent sector more. But that message still hasn't got through. So that's the one I've been fighting on, will continue to fight on as long as I can.
It sounds like a good message. I was going to ask you about the challenges and opportunity in, I suppose, as a business in your sector, but is also a care.
It's like a social good. It is a business first and foremost, because to be regulated by the Care Quality Commission, we have to turn a profit. So we have to run it as a business, which we do. On the other hand, the funds, we're delivering a service on behalf of the public sector. And there are many sides to this argument, and people say, well, you would say that, wouldn't you? But I guess I'd say is the service we provide and the money that we get from local authorities is really insufficient to pay for the care in the community that we want to do. What happens is the people who are paying privately have got the means to pay a little bit more to cross-subsidise the public sector pay. So it's a very difficult scenario. It's not illegal, but it's something that public don't realise. It's being subsidised, and that's why it needs a big shake-up. But I guess you don't really look into social care till you need it, and it sort of goes by the wayside. We seem to be bothered more about, obviously, the standard of living, the cost of living. We're worried about potholes. We're worried about immigration. We're worried about libraries closing, schools, education, defence, Social
Yeah.
care is right at the bottom,
And
but
do
a
you
very
think that
important thing.
as as a business opportunity that given the right conditions that it can overcome the limitations that it has now?
Yes, I think it can. I mean, it's something that a lot of people from overseas are investing in,
Hmm.
and some of the venture capitalists are also investing in it. Well, I think there's room for all of us, but I would like to think there's room in this country for the smaller, medium-sized, family-run businesses to prosper as well in
Hmm.
all formats, whether that's hospitality, whether it's tourism, manufacturing. I think the strain on the social care sector is, if we're not careful, is the smaller people might be squeezed out because the large organisations are able to lose money in certain areas and subsidise. So there is room for us all, but
Hmm.
like anything, with the government change recently in employers' national insurance contributions, the small person is finding it harder to
Yeah,
continue operating because we don't have the economies of scale. And what I would urge people to think about is that if we lose the smaller businesses, we might lose the choice and we might find pressure on prices going upwards,
sure.
rather like the debate that's been over corporate organisations taking over family veterinary surgeries. And actually,
Yes,
the pressure there is that then the prices rise. So the message, I guess, is there is room, be entrepreneurial, there is room for family business because you've got a unique selling point, but also to
hmm,
government to say, be careful, you don't lose the smaller providers. And that goes the same, it can be for pubs, hospitality, like the independent coffee shop versus some of the bigger
yeah,
chains, is there's room for us all. But I think the public want a bit of choice. They want the smaller ones, they want the larger ones. Let's have both.
good message. Thank you. Appreciate that. So, in terms of you mentioned entrepreneurial as a word there.
Yes.
Uh, Going from engineer into the NHS into running your own care home, and then beyond that, and expanding it out to what you have now. What would be the biggest lesson that you've learned along the way? Describe that sort of journey to me, I guess, and some of the lessons there.
Well, I think, like anything, people go into business sometimes thinking it's a good way to work for yourself and make a bit of money at the same time. What I would say is, it is very attractive. It has so many benefits, and I would do it
Mhm.
all again given the chance. But just be prepared for the hard work at the beginning, and also having to work all hours of the day and night to make things work. And I guess also I would say is, don't be frightened to try new things because, in my view, the only way you actually learn is by making mistakes. So to make mistakes is a good thing in a way, but you're
Mhm.
encouraged not to. It doesn't seem to be a positive thing for failure in this country, but do a few things, fail a couple of times, and you'll learn from that, and they could be used as building blocks. But you need a strong constitution. Don't ever, ever, ever give up, is my word, what you're doing. There is room,
Sure.
but you have to keep going. And you just got to sort out, and people talk about work life balance, don't they? Well,
Mhm.
you've got your partner involved in that, you've got children, you've got to try and find the right balance. And that's very, very tricky. And I would say, probably now in my entire time, maybe this is the trickiest period at the minute with the pressures on the economy squeezing
Mhm.
down on business. It makes it even harder. So if you think you've been through everything and you've done well, is you can never be complacent because there's always a shot around the corner. So I'm
Yeah,
still here,
yeah,
keep
yeah.
going, but you've got to be resilient, and
That's a good, yeah,
that's
good
what I
way
would
to
say
describe
is
it.
try not to give up if you can. And
Sure.
yeah.
And then you mentioned failures. Any failures as a word, it kind of almost like, oh, you failed, but you can only succeed by failing.
Mhm.
Um, any failures that, or a failure that sticks out for you that you care to mention that how you overcame that?
Well, I think we did venture into, so one of our branches, we did venture into hospitality.
Mhm.
And I found that challenging at a time when we just struck COVID. So we opened a little uh, coffee shop during that time. Uh, and we had it open 2 or 3 weeks. COVID came along.
Mhm.
We were shut, open again, shut again, help out to eat out. We could
Yeah.
only eat outdoors. The customers could only eat outdoors. And we still have the function. We sold the business. We still have the property that we lease out now. But one of the things I learned was that don't be frightened to try new things. If they don't work, just take it as a learning experience and move on. And thankfully, we're able to move on in that we, as I say, we are renting the premises now. We're still at the premises, so we've still got our money in that environment. But I'm thinking of having another try at it later and be less ambitious to what we offer, because hospitality
Yeah.
and social care have two very challenging environments, particularly with the
Yeah.
shortage of staff that there
Yes.
is now. So, and the costs being weighed on a business, it's almost as though I get this point that we talk about the price of petrol, don't we? But I can see
Yeah. Yeah.
coffee going to over £4 or £5 a cup eventually in the current climate, and
Yeah.
you need a lot
The
of
cost of a
business
pint as well.
customers for that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the cost of a pint, especially in pubs that have
Mm,
that are tied, adding an extra 20-25% on just to sort of keep the lights on, really. It is interesting times in seeing where things are going to end up, really. But
mm.
you mentioned about, I guess, resilience is the word there. You've shown a lot of it. Must have to have the journey that you have. What's
Mm.
the biggest inspiration for you to keep going?
Well, it sounds a bit twee. This is I
Mm.
went into it thinking that I could make a difference in social care and raise the quality of care that people are offered, and that drove me on. But I haven't
Hmm.
achieved anywhere where I need to be at the minute, and I would still like to do that, because I think we could all, as a country, do better. Because I think living longer is great, but we deserve a better quality of life
Hmm.
when we do retire. And at the minute is, I'm sorry to say this, I think that in this country at the minute is older age and older people seem to be less of a priority. And I think
Yeah.
hopefully we all grow old. I think it's a chance when we're younger to try and change the perception of older age for the future, because it's almost like full circle. When you're born, you're dependent, and then you learn to walk and talk and look after
Hmm.
yourself. You become independent. But in a way, the independence only lasts for so many years, because the other end is it starts undoing itself, and you
Sure.
become more dependent, less able to look after yourself, and you end up being looked after totally. So it's preparing yourself for the journey.
Yeah.
But also, I say, sadly, in this country, it's young is positive, and I'm
Hmm.
being generic in this. Older is
Yeah.
not so positive, and therefore we need to make sure that we change it for ourselves in the future. I think no one thinks they're going to be in. I suppose when you're business and young, you think you're invincible. Nothing's going to phase you. But believe me, as the years come, you do need help in the future. And whether
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
in the royal family at the top, the prime minister, or whatever job you do, we're all human beings at the end of it. We're all frail eventually.
Yeah. It's
Never to forget that.
inevitability. It's the one certainty, isn't it? If you
Such
survive,
as taxes
you're
and
going
dying, I guess.
to. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Perhaps
But
there's an
I
opportunity.
wanted to make a difference.
Yeah.
The,
Yeah.
the other thing, interesting thing, Mike, from our business is that I mean, I didn't design the system that we're in. The system is not fit
Hmm.
for purpose, in my view. But the public don't realise, and they may not like it, because this carries into the political argument, is that social care, the predominant number of providing social care are in the for-profit sector.
Yeah.
And some of the public are uncomfortable with that. Now, as I say, I didn't design the system, I'm in the system. We need as a country to think whether we want for profit provision into the future, or should it be state provided. The reason most of it was put into the into the private sector was because the private sector could deliver the same amount of care or more for less money. And there's a challenge on that, is some people don't think that's right. So some of the things that I will be criticised about is making a profit out of caring for older people. But as I said at the beginning, to be regulated, you have to make a profit. And we're in the system, but the public don't realise that. They're a bit uncomfortable. It's not like the NHS, it's free at the point of need, but it's publicly provided. The Our sector is for profit mainly. And does that sit with people? So that's a very difficult argument, and it needs a lot of explanation, but it's a great debating point. Part of the challenge is it's great that people are living longer, but we
Hmm.
need more providers in the sector. So it's a place we can grow. We need more people to come in, deliver services, because at the minute we're going to be short of providers, but we're also desperately short of staff. So we
Hmm.
need by 2040 nearly 500,000 more people in social care to look after the growing elderly population. And where I feel it impacts on the economy is that I don't know if you come across the sandwich generation, but as more and more people get older, we're going to have the people in the middle when they're in
Mhm.
their prime and working life who've got a young family might find that they're having to look after their elderly parents as well in between looking after their family and running a job. We might lose some very important people who are trying to do a job to stop working to care for their elderly parents because there aren't enough staff to look after them. So there's a debate as a country. If we want to boost the GDP and we want to be more successful, we've got to
Mhm.
find a way of managing our population because it's like a train coming down the track with the lights on. No one can see it at the minute until it's
Yeah.
too late. It's a problem that's stored up that no one's really thought about. Politicians, I don't think.
You're right. I think there's a lot of I don't know, it'll happen tomorrow kind of attitude, especially with systems as we were talking
Mm,
about that are built many years ago for a different size of population and a different
mm.
way of acting. So I guess in everything, it's a big challenge, but there's big opportunity if someone saw it
And
that way and took
and I
leadership of it.
and I would say that that's why I would encourage people in other types of business come into social care because your business skills are very much needed. And I would say to anyone looking at coming to social, don't come in because you're a good carer or you can do this. You have to come in, obviously be a good carer, but
Mhm.
you need those business skills because you need to know how to look after finance, HR, the whole thing. And about is not just about one skill. You have to be multi-skilled in all these things, and that's what I would say. Let's have some more business people come into social care and help make the future better.
Excellent. That's a good place to end. So if people would like to get in touch with you, Mike, and perhaps understand more about what you do,
Yeah.
or even just to have a chat, where's the
Yeah.
best place they can
Well,
do
I
that?
think we got our website connected with the care business, but I suppose I don't know whether you put any graphics up, Mike. But
Mhm. Yeah,
I
we'll
don't
put a
mind
link
if you
on.
want to put my mobile number up, and they can give me a
Sure.
call or email me if you've got that as well. I don't mind you putting that up, and I'm happy to talk about getting into the business,
Mhm.
whatever they want to do. And if they feel I've got something that I can impart to help them, I'm always happy to do that. I don't call myself an expert. I'm learning every day as I go along.
There we
And I'm
go.
still here, so I'm happy to give them benefit of my experience, but I don't have all the answers.
Well, none of us do. We just kind of have to try things, fail, succeed, and keep on
The,
learn, as you say.
there's a
So
lot of
great
luck
place.
involved as well as hard work.
Yeah, yeah. It's been really good talking with you. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing all that you have.
pleasure.
And I wish you all the best for the future
Yeah,
success of the
and
businesses
thank
that
you.
you
And
do.
your offer you made at the beginning, happy to talk to someone later whenever you're ready. So maybe if you're only not far away, I can come over and meet you, or you can come here sometime.
Cool. That'd be brilliant. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, pleasure. Thank you.